March 1943, Washington, D.C. Private Thomas Hale stands at the edge of the South Lawn, boots polished, rifle tight against his shoulder. The White House looms ahead, bright, controlled, and touched by the war tearing the rest of the world apart. But Hale knows better. War has already reached here. It just wears a cleaner face. A cold wind cuts across the lawn. Early spring, but it still bites like winter. Stay sharp, Sergeant Miller mutters beside him. This isn't just ceremony. Hale nods once. He's been in the army less than a year. Transferred from infantry training to this special security detail. No explanation. No choice. Rumors fill the silence. A British royal envoy is arriving today. Not just any envoy, someone with direct ties to the crown. Officially, it's about strengthening Allied unity. Unofficially, something else. Something urgent. A black car convoy rolls through the gates. Every soldier stiffens. Hawley's eyes lock onto the lead vehicle. The windows are dark. Too dark. He notices the Secret Service agents more than usual. Their posture isn't ceremonial. It's defensive, like they're expecting trouble. The car door opens. A tall, composed British figure steps out, dressed in a military-style overcoat, not royal robes. No medals on display, just quiet authority. His face is calm, but his eyes scan everything. Not like a diplomat, like a man who's been hunted. Who is that? Hale whispers. Miller doesn't answer immediately. Then, low and tight, someone the Nazis want dead. The words settle heavy. Hale feels it, then the shift in the air. This isn't about diplomacy. This is about survival. Inside the White House, decisions will be made that could shape the war. Outside, men like Hale stand between order and chaos. Suddenly, a shout breaks the stillness. Movement north fence. Hale turns instantly. A flicker, a shadow where there shouldn't be one. His grip tightens on the rifle. This is no ceremony. This is the front line. And the enemy might already be here. The shout snaps the air like a rifle crack. Movement north fence. Private Thomas Hale pivots, boots grinding into damp earth. His rifle rises instinctively, sideline cutting across the hedges toward the iron perimeter. For a second, there's nothing, just branches swaying in the cold wind. Then he sees it. A flicker, not movement, absence. A gap where a man should be. Contact. Sergeant Miller barks. Hale doesn't answer. He's already moving. Two other soldiers break formation, closing the distance toward the fence line. Secret Service agents shift immediately, forming a tight perimeter around the British envoy. The man doesn't flinch. He watches, not afraid, measuring. Hale reaches the hedgerow first. His breath fogs the air. Every instinct from training screams at him something's wrong. He pushes through the branches. On the other side, the ground dips slightly toward the fence. Mud churned. Fresh. To fresh. A length of wire hangs loose, cut clean. Sir, Hale calls back. Fence breach recent. Miller curses under his breath and motions forward. Sweep it, now. Hale steps carefully, rifle leading. His boots sink slightly into the soft soil. Then he freezes. A footprint. Deep. Heavy. Civilian sole, not military issue. Not one of theirs. The wind carries a faint sound. Metal. A click. Hale turns sharply. Too late. A figure bursts from behind the low embankment. Coat dark, face shadowed. Not a soldier. No uniform. Just speed and intent. The man raises a pistol. Hale reacts on instinct. He fires. The shot cracks across the lawn, shattering the illusion of peace. The attacker stumbles but doesn't fall. He fires back once, wild, then turns and runs for the fence. Stop him, Miller shouts. Hale sprints, adrenaline drowning out everything else. The world narrows to the fleeing figure ahead. Boots slam against earth, breath tearing in his chest. The man reaches the broken wire, slips through like he's done it before, like he planned it. Hale skids to a stop at the fence line, rifle aimed, but the shot isn't clean. Beyond the fence, trees, shadows, too many places to disappear. He hesitates. 1 second too long. The figure vanishes into the brush. Silence crashes back in. Behind him, sirens begin to rise. Hale lowers his rifle slowly, pulse hammering. This wasn't random. This was a test. Or worse, a warning. And somewhere inside the White House, the man the Nazis want dead is now sitting in a room full of secrets, while the enemy already knows how to get in. Sirens cut through the morning like a blade. Private Thomas Hale stands frozen at the breach fence, chest heaving, rifle still aimed at empty space. The forest beyond the perimeter swallows everything sound. Movement. The man who was just there. Gone. Damn it. Sergeant Miller storms up behind him. Why didn't you take the shot? Hale doesn't answer right away. His jaw tightens. No clear line, he says finally. Could have hit a civilian. Miller stares at him for a long second, weighing it. Then he exhales sharply. Next time, you don't hesitate. Hale nods, but something in his eyes doesn't agree. Behind them, Agents flood the lawn. Radios crackle. Orders overlap. The calm illusion of Washington is shattered, now replaced by the same tension Hale remembers from training fields and live-fire drills. Only this time, it's real. A black sedan door slams shut near the White House entrance. Hale turns. The British envoy is being rushed inside, surrounded by agents. But just before he disappears through the doorway, he pauses and looks back, not at the chaos, at Hale. Their eyes meet for a fraction of a second. There's recognition there, not of the man but of the moment, like he understands exactly what just happened and what it means. 20 minutes later, Hale stands inside a narrow corridor just off the main entrance. He's not supposed to be here. Infantry doesn't get pulled into White House interiors. But today, rules are shifting. Miller steps out of a side room and jerks his head. You. Inside. Hale hesitates only a second before stepping through the door. The room is small, dim, heavy with cigarette smoke. A map of the Atlantic is pinned to the wall. Lines, routes, markings, convoys, war, laid out in ink. 3 men stand inside. One is Secret Service. One is a U.S. Army officer. The third, the British envoy. Up close, he looks older, tired. Not weak but worn in a way Hale recognizes. A man who's seen too much and kept going anyway. Private Hale, the officer says. You were first on the breach. Yes, sir. Describe the attacker. Hale does. Every detail he can recall: the coat, the movement, the weapon. The envoy listens without interruption. Then he speaks. His voice is calm, controlled. That wasn't an assassin. The room stills. Hale frowns slightly. Sir. The envoy steps closer to the map, tapping a marked convoy route across the Atlantic. That was a courier. Silence. He wasn't here to kill me. The envoy continues. He was here to confirm I arrived. A chill runs through Hale. Confirm. For who? Miller asks. The envoy doesn't hesitate. For Berlin. The word lands like a weight. Hale's grip tightens on his rifle. This wasn't a failed attack. It was something far worse. Proof. And now, the enemy knows exactly where their target is. The room feels smaller now. Private Thomas Hale stands rigid near the door, the envoy's words still echoing in his head. For Berlin. Not an assassin. Not chaos. A message. The U.S. officer Colonel Harris steps forward, jaw tight. If they know he's here, we've got a window. Hours, maybe less. The Secret Service agent shakes his head. We lock this place down. Nobody in, nobody out. That won't stop what's already in motion. The envoy replies calmly. All eyes shift to him. He moves to the map again, tracing a line across the Atlantic with one gloved finger. German intelligence doesn't act without purpose. If they confirmed my arrival, it means the operation tied to it is already underway. Hale watches him closely. There's no panic in the man, only certainty. Sir, Hale says carefully, what operation? The envoy turns. For the first time, there's something heavier behind his eyes. Convoy HX-229. Hale doesn't recognize the number, but the colonel does. His face hardens instantly. That convoy's carrying munitions, armor, fuel, aircraft parts. Enough to sustain operations in Europe for months. And enough, the envoy adds quietly, to make it a prime target. The room falls silent again. Hale feels it now, the scale of it. This isn't just about one man. It's about ships, thousands of men. The war itself shifting on unseen currents. They're going after the convoy, Miller mutters. No, the envoy corrects. They're going to destroy it. A beat. And they'll use what they confirmed today to time it perfectly. Hale steps closer to the map despite himself. Then we warn them. Radio header out. Colonel Harris shakes his head. Convoy's already in the Atlantic. Radio silence protocol. If we break it, we light them up like a beacon for every U-boat out there. Hale clenches his jaw. Every option feels like a trap. So we do nothing, he says. The envoy studies him. No, he says finally. We act. How? Miller asks. The envoy's gaze shifts back to the map, then to a secondary route marked faintly along the coast. There's a naval courier flight leaving from Maryland within the hour, he says. Fast. And tracked. Harris frowns. That's not standard. It doesn't need to be, the envoy cuts in. It needs to be faster than a submarine. Hale feels something shift again. Not fear this time, momentum. You want to send a message manually, Hale says. The envoy nods once. Not just a message, he says. New orders. A dangerous pause. Orders that will put the convoy directly in harm's way. For a reason. Miller exhales sharply. That sounds like suicide. The envoy meets his gaze. It will look like it. Hale feels the weight of that settle in his chest. Then why do it? The envoy's voice drops, almost to a whisper. Because if we're right, we won't just find the U-boats. A beat. We'll destroy them. Outside, the distant hum of engines begins to rise. Time is running out. and Hale realizes he's about to be part of something far bigger than. The engine noise grows louder outside, low, steady, impatient. Private Thomas Hale steps out into the cold air, the weight of the briefing pressing against his chest. The South Lawn no longer feels like a place of ceremony. It feels like a launch point, a point of no return. A military staff car waits near the drive, engine running. Two Navy personnel stand beside it, faces tight, eyes scanning. This is happening fast, too fast for hesitation. Move, Sergeant Miller snaps. Hale climbs into the back seat. The British envoy slides in beside him without a word. Up close, Hale notices something new: faint ink stains on the envoy's glove. Codes, maps, secrets carried by hand. The car lurches forward. The road blurs past as they speed out of Washington. No sirens, no escort, just urgency wrapped in silence. Hale grips his rifle between his knees. Sir, if this plan works, it won't feel like it does, the envoy interrupts calmly. Hale frowns. The envoy continues, eyes fixed ahead. We're going to make the convoy appear vulnerable. Of course, exposed. To draw them out, Hale says. Yes. Miller leans forward from the front seat. And if we're wrong? The envoy doesn't hesitate. Then we lose every ship. The words hang heavy. Hale swallows hard but says nothing. This is no longer about safe choices. It's about calculated risk on a scale he's never imagined. Naval Air Station, Maryland. The car skids to a halt near a waiting aircraft, a twin-engine Navy courier plane. Propellers already spinning. Ground crew move with precision, no wasted motion. The wind is louder here, whipping across the open runway. Hale steps out, boots hitting concrete. The aircraft looks small, fragile even, not built for war, built for speed. You'll fly with us, the envoy says suddenly. Hale blinks. Sir, I need someone who saw the breach, the envoy continues. Someone who understands what's at stake. Miller cuts in. He's infantry. And today, the envoy replies, he's more than that. A beat. Hale feels the decision settle on him, not offered, not asked. Given. He nods once. Yes, sir. They move quickly toward the plane. A pilot signals them aboard. Inside, it's cramped. Metal, canvas, noise. Hale straps in as the engines roar louder, vibrating through his bones. The envoy sits across from him, unfolding a sealed envelope. Red markings. Classified. Hawley's eyes drift to the small window. The sky is turning darker. Clouds rolling in from the east. A storm. Fitting. The plane begins to move. Faster. Faster. Then, the ground drops away. Washington disappears beneath them. And somewhere far beyond the horizon, in the cold, unforgiving Atlantic, a convoy sails blindly into danger, unaware that its fate now rests on a single aircraft, and the men inside it. Hale closes his eyes for a brief second. When he opens them, the storm is already ahead. The aircraft shudders as it climbs. Clouds swallow the horizon within minutes, thick, gray, unforgiving. Rain lashes against the small window beside Private Thomas Hale, each drop streaking like tracer fire. Inside, the noise is constant. Engines roaring, metal vibrating. No room for doubt. Hale grips the edge of his seat as turbulence hits hard. The plane drops suddenly, his stomach lurches, but the pilot corrects, forcing the nose upward again. Across from him, the British envoy remains steady, unfolding documents across his lap as if seated at a desk instead of inside a storm. Time matters now, the envoy says over the noise. Hale leans closer to hear. If the courier we saw reaches his contact, the U-boats will already be adjusting position. Miller, strapped in beside the door, frowns. Adjusting for what? The envoy taps the envelope. For our deception. Hale feels a chill. They'll expect weakness, he says. Yes, the envoy replies. And they'll commit everything they have. Lightning flashes outside, illuminating the cabin for a split second, faces sharp, eyes tense. And that's when we strike, Miller mutters. The envoy doesn't respond immediately. Instead, he looks at Hale. Tell me, Private, when you saw that man at the fence, what did you feel? The question catches Hale off guard. Sir, not what you thought, the envoy clarifies. What you felt. Hale hesitates. Then, confidence, he says. He wasn't nervous. He knew he'd get out. The envoy nods slowly. Exactly. Another jolt of turbulence rattles the plane. He wasn't afraid because he believed the plan was already working. Hawley's grip tightens. Then we're already behind. No, the envoy says quietly. We're just on the edge. Hours pass in fragments, storm, darkness, engine noise. Then, a break in the clouds. The Atlantic appears below. Endless. Black-blue. Empty at first glance, but Hale knows better. Somewhere beneath that surface, German U-boats move like shadows. Waiting. The pilot's voice crackles through the cabin. Approaching rendezvous coordinates. Miller leans forward. Any sign of the convoy? A pause, then, negative. Wait. Hale presses against the window. At first, he sees nothing. Then, shapes, tiny, faint, ships, a line stretching across the water, barely visible through the haze. Convoy HX-229, still intact, still unaware. Relief flickers, but it doesn't last, because beyond them, Hale sees something else. A disturbance in the water. Multiple points. Subtle, but wrong. He narrows his eyes. Then it hits him. Periscopes. Not one. Many. His breath catches. Sir, Hale says slowly, they're already here. The envoy follows his gaze, and for the first time, the calm in his expression cracks. Below them, the convoy sails straight ahead, and circling it, the unseen predators of the Atlantic have already begun to close in. The aircraft banks hard to the left. Private Thomas Hale grips the window frame as the convoy sharpens into view below. Merchant ships in staggered lines. Gray hulls cutting through dark water. Smoke trails faintly from their stacks. They look slow, vulnerable, exactly as planned. Too perfect, Sergeant Miller mutters. The pilot's voice cuts through the cabin. We can't stay here long. If they spot us, they already have, the envoy says quietly. Hale turns. Periscopes don't just watch, the envoy continues. They report. A cold realization settles in. Somewhere beneath the surface, a radio signal has already gone out. Coordinates confirmed. Target acquired. The envoy moves quickly now, opening the sealed envelope fully. Inside orders, coded and precise. He hands a sheet to Hale. Signal lamp instructions, he says. You'll transmit. Hale blinks. Sir, I've never. You'll manage? No time for doubt. The aircraft descends, engines throttling back slightly. Wind buffets the fuselage as they drop closer to the water. Too close. Hale feels it in his bones. This is exposure. A bright flash erupts in the distance. Then another. Explosions. The first ship in the convoy jerks violently. A column of water and fire bursting from its side. They've started. Miller shouts. Chaos spreads instantly. Ships begin to turn, horns blaring, formation breaking apart. Too late. The wolves are already among them. Now, Private, the envoy orders. Hale fumbles with the signal lamp, hands shaking as he positions himself near the open hatch. Wind tears into the cabin, freezing and violent. He aims the light downward toward the lead escort ship. Dot, dash, dot. The code feels clumsy at first, but then muscle memory from training kicks in. Message flowing. New orders. Immediate course shift. Execute pattern. Another explosion below. A second ship burns, flames licking across the water. Hale forces himself to stay focused. Designate target grid. Hold position. Do not scatter. Miller grabs the hatch frame, shouting over the wind. They won't hold. They'll try to run. They must not, the envoy replies, voice sharp now. If they scatter, we lose everything. Hale keeps signaling, repeating the message. Again, again. Below, one of the escort ships flashes a response. Acknowledged. Hale exhales, but the relief is brief, because the convoy doesn't flee. It slows. It turns, deliberately, directly into danger. Miller stares down in disbelief. They're walking into it. No, the envoy says, eyes fixed on the water. They're setting the trap. A sudden streak cuts across the sky. Hale barely registers it before. Gunfire erupts. Tracer rounds rip past the aircraft. Contact. Surface vessel. The pilot yells. Hale looks down. A German U-boat has surfaced, its deck gun already firing, trying to bring the plane down. More shapes rise from the water. Not hiding anymore. Hunting opally. The aircraft jolts as a round slams through part of the fuselage. Metal tears. Warning lights. The aircraft lurches violently. A second impact tears through the fuselage. Metal screaming as shrapnel rips past the cabin wall. Warning lights flicker erratically, bathing everything in a pulsing red glow. Engine 2's hit. The pilot shouts, "We're losing power." Private Thomas Hale barely hears him. He's still at the hatch. Signal lamp clenched in numb hands, wind clawing at his face. Below, the Atlantic is no longer dark. It burns. Convoy ships twist through fire and smoke, horns blaring, engines straining. But they don't scatter. They hold, exactly as ordered. And the U-boats, they've committed. More surface now, drawn in by what looks like a dying convoy. Deck guns blazing, silhouettes exposed against the flames. They took the bait, Miller says, almost in disbelief. The envoy doesn't answer. His eyes are fixed beyond the chaos. Wait for it, he murmurs. Hale follows his gaze. At first nothing, just smoke, fire, war. Then, shapes on the horizon. Fast, low, aircraft. A squadron of Allied patrol bombers bursts through the cloud cover. Engines roaring like thunder. They come in tight formation, skimming just above the waves. Hale's breath catches. They're here. The first bomber drops its payload. Depth charges slam into the water, disappearing for a split second, then detonate. Columns of ocean erupt skyward, violent and precise. A surface U-boat vanishes in the blast. Another tries to dive to slow. The second wave hits, explosions ripping through the water around it. The ocean itself becomes a weapon. They had to surface to attack, the envoy says, voice steady again. And once they did, they were visible. More bombers sweep in, strafing, dropping charges, turning the hunter into the hunted. Below, the convoy still burns, but now it fights back. Escort ships open fire, guns thundering, shells tearing into exposed submarines. Hale grips the hatch, watching it unfold. The plan, it's working, but the victory feels incomplete because the plane, it's dying. The engine sputters violently. Smoke pours back along the wing. We're not making it to base. The pilot yells, we'll have to ditch. Hale turns back inside. The envoy is already securing the documents, sealing them tight. Listen to me, the envoy says, locking eyes with Hale. What you saw today, this matters. The convoy survives because of it. Another violent jolt shakes the aircraft. Hale nods once, breath steadying despite everything. Yes, sir. Below them, the battle rages on: fire, water, steel, and survival. Above it, the crippled aircraft begins its slow descent toward the unforgiving Atlantic. Hale looks out one last time. The U-boats are burning. The convoy still sails, and the cost of victory is about to be paid in full.